Lawyers, our first line of defense against attacks on the rule of law. The people who fight for your rights and mine are now being targeted by Donald Trump through a series of punishing executive orders. Some 2 months ago, Trump began issuing orders aimed at law firms that had hired or represented his critics. These orders revoke attorneys' security clearances, ban firm employees from entering federal buildings, and cancel government contracts that are held by the firms or even by the firm's clients. For firms who do a lot of work with the federal government, that could mean financial ruin. But what initially began as a campaign of retribution has evolved into something far more expansive and dangerous, an effort to reshape the legal profession itself. Now, even firms with no direct connection to Trump's personal grievances are being targeted under the guise of investigating diversity programs or hiring practices. The message here: lawyers and law firms who represent interests at odds with this administration are not safe. Even more alarming, Trump has reportedly directed the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to identify firms that are pursuing what he calls frivolous lawsuits against the administration. But frivolous, in this context, could mean any firm challenging unconstitutional government policies, any firm standing up for citizens like you and me. This is what authoritarianism looks like. Trump is creating a regime of fear, one that's already causing many law firms to preemptively settle with the government. On Friday, 5 more top firms struck deals with the Trump administration, agreeing to provide, listen to this, over $600 million in free legal services to causes endorsed by the president. We in Hungary now? In total, 9 major firms have now pledged more than $940 million in pro bono work aligned with what the administration calls conservative ideals. These deals aren't just mere transactions. They reflect a much larger crisis: the weaponization of executive power to punish dissent and to force civic institutions into submission. Just this week, the Justice Department announced it's barring its attorneys from participating in any events hosted by the American Bar Association, one of the nation's oldest and most respected professional legal organizations and a vocal defender of many of the firms that are under attack. The move serves to isolate those who dare to speak out. The chilling effect of Trump's assault on the legal profession cannot be overstated. Law firms could soon start to avoid politically sensitive cases, pro bono or unpaid volunteer representation that supports civil rights, voting access, constitutional challenges to federal policy. All of that will suffer. But while some firms are choosing to settle, others are fighting back. That includes Sussman Godfrey, the firm that helped Dominion Voting Systems secure a multi-million-dollar settlement with Fox News for lies about the 2020 election. On Friday night, that firm sued to block the administration's latest executive order against it. In its complaint, Sussman Godfrey called Trump's actions a grave threat to the foundational premise of our republic. Quote, "The president is abusing the powers of his office to wield the might of the executive branch in retaliation against organizations and people that he dislikes. What for 2 centuries has been beyond the pale will become the new normal." Put simply, this could be any of us. Our legal system rests on the battle that everyone has the right to fair representation, whatever your views, whatever you are alleged to have done, and that lawyers must be free to advocate, especially when it is unpopular. When lawyers are afraid to defend the rule of law or represent those who are challenging the government, it's not just the legal profession that suffers. It's hardly the legal profession that suffers. It's us. It's the people who depend on it. It's all of us. One of the nation's leading constitutional scholars has said if the Trump administration does something that is unconstitutional, who is going to be there to challenge them? The legal community, much like the press and other sectors of the civil society, stand at a critical crossroads: submit or resist in the greater fight to save our democracy. And while most partners at major law firms have stayed quiet, a growing number of the associates below them are speaking out. Over 1,500 have anonymously signed an open letter condemning the Trump administration's attack on their profession. The letter states in part, quote, "When we are united, we cannot be intimidated. These tactics only work if the majority does not speak up. Our hope was that our employers, some of the most profitable law firms in the world, would lead the way. That has not yet been the case, but it still very much can be." They continue. It's easy to be afraid of being the first to speak. We are removing that barrier. We are speaking. Now, it's our employer's turn. One associate has even come forward publicly. Rachel Cohen, an associate at the top-tier law firm Skadden Arps, resigned recently, citing the company's failure to meaningfully respond to Trump's escalating threats. In her resignation letter, which she shared with the entire firm, she wrote, "Colleagues, if you question if it is as bad as you think it is 10 times worse. Whether what we measure is the cowardice in the face of our lost profits, or the proximity to authoritarianism, or the trauma inflicted on our colleagues who are non-white, or the disappointment that I feel in this moment, take what you suspect and multiply it by a factor of 10. Act accordingly. I recognize not everyone is positioned as I am and cannot act the same way, but do not recruit for this firm if they cannot protect their employees. Do not pretend that what is happening is normal or excusable. It isn't." Joining me now is Rachel Cohen, a former associate at the law firm Skadden Arps. She resigned from the firm in protest amid its handling of the threats from the Trump administration. Also joining us, Mark Zaid, national security attorney, co-founder of WhistleBlower Aid and managing partner at the firm, Mark S. Zaid, PC. Welcome, both of you. Thank you for being with us. Rachel, congratulations for your courage. That's hard. You're an associate, which means you're not yet at the position in a law firm at which you are most comfortable and most secure. You're not a tenured professor at a university. So that takes a lot to sit there and speak up against an esteemed firm. Why did you do it, and what were you hoping to get out of it?
I was hoping to get people to pay attention to what was going on. And I think it's important I saw you read a snippet of the open letter beforehand, and I deeply appreciate that. But this resignation was the culmination of a lot of internal advocacy and external advocacy that I and other associates have been working on. Ultimately, it became very clear that I actually resigned before my firm cut a deal with the Trump administration, but it had become clear to me that they were likely to do so based on the lack of response to the internal advocacy. And ultimately, my goal was to confirm for people that feel like things are so off the rails that they should be acting differently, that at least some of us are acting differently. And I will say now 4 other associates at firms that have cut deals have resigned. There's huge organizing efforts internally, both from associates, and also there's starting to be some movement from partnerships as well, or individual partners, if not partnerships of law firms. But at the end of the day, people feel so gaslit. They feel like if it's as bad as I think it is, surely someone would do something. And I found that I was feeling that way as well. If it's as bad as I think it is, surely someone is going to do something. And then I realized it might have to be me.
Yeah. Well, that's the lesson for all of us watching this. Mark, let's talk about this for a second. I think there are a lot of people who do not know these firms. They will never encounter them. They definitely don't know that they were doing government work or had security clearances, people like you, for instance. Talk to me about the implications of what's going on. These firms who are sort of settling with, appeasing, bending the knee toward the Trump administration. In some cases, I'm sure some of this work might have been done anyway. But what's happening here, and why should my viewer, who is not a lawyer, think this is serious?
Yeah, well, let me first applaud Rachel for what she did, those steps. It makes a difference, right? You read that letter of those other associates, and I was struck by one word you used, anonymous. 1,500, great number, anonymous people versus the impact that someone like Rachel might have by coming forward. So there's 2 things that are going on with this war against lawyers. One is I call Trump the Butcher, because Dick the Butcher from Henry VI was a character who wanted to famously say, kill all the lawyers. Why did he want to kill all the lawyers? Any of us who have ever been in law school have been teased by our family about how horrible, kill all the lawyers, well, it's like a joke. But it was actually a compliment by Shakespeare, because Dick the Butcher was working to kill all the lawyers so that an authoritarian government could take power. And the only ones who were stepping in his way were the lawyers who were fighting back, which reminds me further of the German theologian Martin Niemöller. The famous poem about they came for the Jews, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't Jewish, came for the communists, etc. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out.
Right.
So if people like Rachel and some of the other firms who are fighting back don't speak out, fine. You took my security clearance, Donald Trump. All you've done is embolden me to fight back more, because that's what we do as lawyers.
Rachel, let's talk about what can happen here. In other words, let's say others do take inspiration from you, and Mark's absolutely right that they should and they will. What does success look like? And I struggled with this with the stuff with Eric Adams. It's like, are people supposed to resign, or are they supposed to stay and fight? What does success look like in terms of getting your law firms to stop bending the knee?
I think that success requires both of those things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm appreciative, so deeply appreciative of the other people who have resigned. But it's a difficult choice to make. And there's so much to be done internally that I think is incredibly urgent. And so I'm just heartened to see so many people pulling in the same direction at a variety of these firms. And I recognize there continue to be firms that are cutting deals with the Trump administration. And I think that some people feel like, well, then perhaps it hasn't been successful. But I can tell you right now, Ali, the fact that I am on the news again today, they were so unprepared for any person to keep this in the news cycle. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to lay out why the average person should care about this, because it's hard to care what happens to Skadden Arps, a firm where profits are millions of dollars per equity partner. But ultimately, the Trump administration's being very smart about this. We've underestimated them a bit. They know what they're doing. They're targeting these unsympathetic victims in these large corporate law firms to then go after public interest attorneys that are really on the front lines fighting the good fight in cases like Abrego Garcia's, the man who's currently in El Salvador. You need attorneys, and he has fantastic representation, but there's many, many other Kilmar Abrego Garcias that need representation. And a lot of that historically has come from resources of large corporate law firms trying to clean up their own image. And if they don't have to do that anymore, or are in fact conflicted out of providing that representation, while the Trump administration is simultaneously attacking through executive orders, through fact sheets, through cuts to funding, public interest attorneys that do that work full time, we're reaching a point where there's been a lot of correct attention on attacks on judges, but the attacks on lawyers are to prevent us from even needing to get there at all. If there's no lawyers to bring the case, there's no justice system in the United States.
And Mark, this is relevant to you, because not only has the administration come directly for you and taken your security clearance away, but it's got everything to do with the people you represent, or the people you potentially represent, who know of you and will say, hey, the government's coming for me. I need to talk to Mark Zaid. I'm a whistleblower. I need to talk to Mark Zaid. That's the message for the rest of us is when they do come from us, as you quoted, we need people like you and like Rachel and these firms to be able to say we're big enough, we're strong enough to stand up against the United States government.
I've been representing the same type of clients in the same cases for over 30 years. I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. I represent whistleblowers against every administration. There's always a need for that. And this is the first administration who has, in fact, then targeted me as a result of that. In fact, in the first Trump administration, I represented numerous whistleblowers, one of whom has led for this retaliatory action against me. But my security clearance was actually increased during the Trump administration the first time around. And now somehow I'm deemed untrustworthy. And I'm put in this bucket with Democratic politicians, which is perfectly fine for them, except I'm just not one. I'm just a lawyer. And this is where the danger, what Rachel's talking about, of stepping up. It not only hits the lawyers and intimidates them because of lots of concerns that everyone can understand, financial, et cetera. Family matters. It's not just us as the lawyers, it's the families of us as well that are impacted, but also the clients. I mean, I have to warn clients who come to me now that they may want to think twice about having me as their lawyer during this administration, because I don't want to be a liability to them.
Right. Your lawyer shouldn't be the distraction. Mark,
so
thank you for
it's a problem. I mean, this is a real problem.
Thanks for what you do. Rachel, thank you for what you do. Rachel Cohen is a former associate at the law firm Skadden Arps, Slate, Mager, and Flum, and Mark Zaid, national security attorney and managing partner at Mark S. Zaid, PC.